It's newspaper review segment on our Trust TV Daybreak show this morning, and we'll begin with the Daily Trust. And the major story here stays with the president directives on the release of grains. 2 weeks after Tinubu's directive, FG yet to release free grains to Nigerians. And the writers here say no food items with us yet. That's according to NEMA. Agric Ministry official blame data authentication. What is there to authenticate, really? I'm not sure. Invest in farming to tackle hunger. This is from the U.S., and this is the U.S. government urging.
If we're going to be honest about what is going on, you look at the government's response, you look at how they're trying to address the situation, and you hear from our callers this morning. I mean, everything they pretty much are saying is true about how the leadership are only paying lip service to it, but the reality is that how do you square this circle when you realize and you accept that there's hunger in the land, right? And that food inflation is biting hard. But then again, from the government quarters, you're hearing that data authentication is standing in the way of addressing this problem. Does that even suggest the seriousness that needs to be in place to address this situation, that there is urgency?
If you did the data collection, you're warehousing the data. What are you authenticating? What is so difficult in basically, I mean, we have a sharing formula for revenues.
Right.
We know what the population
exists.
Yes, you're at least something to work from. The state did not suddenly increase because you now have to share 40,000 metric tons of grains. Why not work with the state, cascade these items to the state as per populations in local government and state, and let them handle it from there? What's this idea of waiting until you authenticate something when people are practically...
I think this is just a delay tactic because, as some have said, we don't have the grains that we think we have, or that the government wants us to believe we have. And that explains a lot, because if the grains were there, I think it would be, just happening,
and to think that the Minister of Finance at a recent engagement just a couple of days ago said the government would be intervening with another 60,000, which brings it to 100,000 that has not shifted. This is not the first time. We were told that each senator was given a certain amount of grains to share with their constituency. That never happened. Basically disappeared. We had a similar intervention, pronouncement by the president much earlier in the life of this administration. That also did not happen. That also did not happen. So this government must need to check itself. If you want to continue to build trust with the people, then you must walk the talk. Moving on to other stories on the front page of the Daily Trust, we have the public hearing at the International Court of Justice in The Hague against Israel occupation in the Palestine territories, including East Jerusalem. As a Palestinian inspected a car burnt in reported attack the previous night by Israeli settlers in the village of Bakwa, northwest of Nablus, in the occupied West Bank. And of course,
it's really rather unfortunate what is going on.
Yeah.
And as the world watches, it once again just shows our inability as a race to just be honest with ourselves and call a spade, that this death needs to come to a stop, and some sort of long-lasting peace needs to be engineered. And this is the opportunity, but unfortunately, we're still taking sides, and the killing continues.
Yeah, painfully. 10 countries have now approached the ICJ against Israel's occupation of Palestine. And quickly, 100 corpses trapped as quarrels shot mortuary over ritual activity. And Naira gains a security operative sustained raid on BDCs. This was one interesting feature of the yesterday with this surprise raid across
Zone 4 in Ibadan, in Kano,
in Aba, in Lagos.
So what's the whole point? Are they currency speculators? What are they doing that is illegal exactly?
That's the idea. What was interesting yesterday was about 9:10 p.m. yesterday. We also got the backing of the recognized Association of Bureau de Change operators saying there's nowhere in the world where you have this indiscriminate hawking of foreign currencies on the street, as we have in the case of Nigeria. You know, like those who sell what they describe as budget tomatoes. You know, they're just there. What they are doing is not backed by any kind of science. No, it's not evidence-based. They just basically wake up. If they sense a sense of hesitation or urgency on your face, they just put out whatever price they like. And basically that's it. Of course, there is a question of supply, you know, but these guys have taken it one notch higher.
And I suppose also in there, I mean, you know a lot more about this than I do, but, you know, I thought the CBN tried to streamline it where dollars can only be accessed through the banks. And I don't know what happened with that, because I don't understand how, you know, we're not regularizing access to the forex, especially with these, you know, irregular activities of some of these blue-chip operators.
The basic thing, I mean, there is supply is still lagging demand. And so if you go to the official window, which is going through your commercial banks to ask for dollar, which is being sold anyway at a rate far higher than we used to know, the question would always be, are there supplies? You know, the last time the CBN intervened was about a week ago with about $100 million, but the market is actually asking for more. And you cannot completely wipe off the black market. It will always be there, as we find in just about every country of the world.
I mean, I appreciate competition, but I think if, you know, what we're doing with you know, money deposit banks is scaling up enough, I mean, the BDCs will be the ones catching up. Because the banks are there. It's just like the POS guy and the banks.
That would be.
I mean, the POS guy is, you know, when you're too stressed that you don't want to go to the bank, you can stop at the POS, but you still have the bank ATMs.
You know, so when you want to do the volumes.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but it's still a question of supply. People would rather go to the market where there is ease of entry and exit. Today, even with your own dollar in the bank, it's difficult getting access to them. So that has continued to, you know, make this black market the go-to places for everybody.
Because they're easier, they're accessible.
It's easier, the documentations are loosed. You know, just about anybody can come in, and you know, dump as much as they want and extract as much as they want from that market. There's nowhere else in the world where you can walk in and pick $1 million from the black market, other than what we see here in Nigeria.
And also, it just, you know, allows for all these security issues to happen. You talk about terrorism financing with, you know, unchecked activities like this.
When you have a market that huge that is unpoliced, basically you get those.
Let's take a quick look at the front page of the Guardian newspaper for today. Customs 5 trillion naira target threatens trade, heightens price crisis. More on this one on page 6. There's an infographic that breaks it down. A lot of that has to do with custom duties, clearance, and so on and so forth. Some of the writers says it cost about 15 million naira to clear a 1 by 40 feet container and 10 million naira to clear 1 by 20 feet container. So the sizes does matter. Import rates adjustments under tinubu from May 23rd to date, and you can see the steep rise there.
The rate is just arbitrary.
Went from 422 to the dollar to 1,606. And that just tells you something. All of this under 8 months. In other news, 5 banks' impairment charges hit 580 billion naira in 9 months. What are impairment charges?
Basically, charges coming from bad loans.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So the way the system works, it's if you give out a loan, the way the prudential guidelines work, if you give out a loan that is not doing very well, you cannot continue to earn interest on those loans. The interests are suspended because they are depositors' funds in the first place. You should.
It's not the bank's money.
So if you do other business successful, you have to suspend your profits from those until you can deal.
580 billion. That's a lot of money.
But it's also a reflection of what's happening in the economy.
Exactly. Abuja arrested in Edo as aggrieved candidates seek his prosecution. He looks like a haunted man at this moment. Petrol queues spread nationwide as Ipman, Neman blame supply distribution. And Borno engages monarchs on reintegration of repentant terrorists. Gowon urges ECOWAS to lift sanctions against Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger Republic. Tinubu gave governors 30 billion each to address food shortages. interestingly, just to provide some context, even when the Senate president was making this assertion, he said unverified reports. So I don't know why he went ahead to say
If
it.
the Senate president is not sure about this assertion,
Why would he go ahead and say it? Because the governors now are feeling boxed in. What if they were not given? Because we realized the intervention then was supposed to be 55 billion, and they were only given 2-point-something billion, as we were meant to understand. So we don't know whether the rest came in or not.
They're supposed to go in as grains.
As one of our callers said this morning, there is no honesty within the system, and that's why Nigerians do not believe anything they say on a day-to-day basis.
That's it.
Anyway, this is where we wrap things up for today. Last week we had to deal with the fact that Mr. Ben Sherman was absent from his duty post. To this week, it's Malan Nasrallah, and I suppose he has some explanation to do next week, God willing. But for now, we're going to have to end the conversation here. Thank you most kindly for joining us on Daybreak. We really do appreciate your time and company. For all those who called in, we really appreciate your contribution this morning. Join us again tomorrow. We'll be back live at 8 a.m. My name is Abdullahi Ahmad. Good morning.
I'm Sunday Michael Ogu. I wish you all of the best of the day, and we'll do this again tomorrow.